Well, as I said earlier, reality does invade. Let's go to the very gifted Adam Creighton, who's written today, quote, "Where the bloody hell are you?" The famous jingle Scott Morrison commissioned when he was head of Tourism Australia in 2006. And as Adam says, with international borders shut, state borders shut, where the hell are you, Prime Minister and the High Court? Adam, very valid question. Answer your own question. Where are they?
Well, certainly, Alan. Look, it's a very good question. I've been thinking for some weeks now, where is the result of this famous High Court case, which was actually brought back in May the 25th, and then it took 3 months to establish just the facts, which the federal court did on the 25th of August, and now the High Court's recently said that it won't actually hear the trial until early November, which will be almost 6 months. And of course, this is one of the most important cases that the High Court will have heard in many, many years. You'd think, with enormous implications for the Federation and, of course, for the thousands of small businesses which are being destroyed along the border.
Yes, losing hundreds and hundreds of millions along the way. Now, the Prime Minister had joined Clive Palmer in the constitutional case against Western Australia and then pulled out, which has angered a lot of people. I mean, I've asked you this a million times, but if a Liberal government can't defend the Constitution, who will?
No, look, it's a very good point, and the federal government could do a lot more. I mean, for instance, they have power over quarantine in Section 51 of the Constitution, so they could pass a law in the federal parliament, and that would override all of the state quarantine rules on this matter. And so they could effectively, because of Section 109, there can't be inconsistency on those matters, but they don't do that, and they're not even joining the High Court case. And of course, we both know why. It's because, sadly, these border closures are quite popular with the electorate.
That's it.
And that is because premiers are basically playing to these base and parochial
and Scott Morrison thought, I will lose support if I actually support Clive Palmer against WA. But the figures are significant, aren't they, Adam? New South Wales Treasury say they're losing $73 million each week in tourism because of the border closures. That's with Victoria. And then Queensland losing $117 million a week because of the separation from New South Wales. So the total cost to the economy of this case not being heard is hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, look, that's certainly right. That's just one industry, and that's just 2 borders. There are a lot more borders shut than that, and so the total cost must be, well in excess of $200 million a week.
Yeah, without costing the emotional tragedy.
Of course, of course. Now, that's one of the frustrations of this whole issue, actually. We keep talking in dollars and cents, but all of these restrictions are about people's lives. They can't go to funerals, they can't go on holidays, they can't do this and that. You can't put a price on those things, but they're all being stopped right now, seemingly indefinitely, especially in Victoria.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the federal court. The federal court found in June, because they're arguing we've got to close the borders because of health, that the transmission of the virus to WA from South Australia, the ACT and the Northern Territory, the federal court, because it had to establish the facts, was low, and from Tasmania, very low or negligible. And yet it'll be 6 months in November since Clive Palmer filed the case. As I understand it, and correct me, it went to the federal court to establish the facts, which it did. Then it's delayed because what? There was a so-called expert witness from WA who couldn't read the documents because she was, spending hours walking to and from work in Melbourne, fearful of catching coronavirus.
Yes, look, this is a somewhat laughable part. This is a somewhat laughable part of the whole saga. This scientist who actually, mind you, forecast back in March, that tens of thousands of Australians would be dying from the virus, so it's completely wrong on that score. But nevertheless, she's the expert witness for Western Australia in this case. Well, she was walking to and from work and said she didn't have time to read the documents, and so that was one of the reasons why the fact-finding mission of the federal court was delayed. So, here you have it, one of the most important cases in Australian history is basically delayed because someone's walking around in Melbourne and scared of a virus.
Adam, if you were facing a criminal charge in a court, and you and I know nobody's facing a criminal charge, and the court matter is set down for a particular date, and you say, I'm sorry, I can't provide my witness, do you think they'd say, oh, good, no problem, Adam, we'll postpone the case down the track like hell, eh?
No, you'd think the High Court would have, shown a bit more leadership, so to speak, on this issue, and they've said they can't fit the case in September, and they can't fit it in October as well. So it's early November. I mean, surely these other migration cases can be moved.
Absolutely,
they are as important, obviously.
And to get a metaphor of it, you just take the Canberra airport. I think you've made this point. There are 20 people coming and going from Canberra airport compared with the usual 9,000. And I mean,
yes, that's right. And there's a place where they haven't had a single case of transmission for many, many weeks, if ever.
Well, I ask everyone who comes on the program, Adam, when are we going to get rid of this fixation about cases? 99% of these cases are mild and 99.75% of the cases recover.
No, look, that is true. Sadly, the media is to blame for this. It's just a total obsession And if you look at the statistics in Europe now, you see, certainly you do see an explosion of cases.
Yeah,
but there
but
certainly
not deaths.
hasn't been an explosion of deaths.
No, absolutely.
Far from it.
Absolutely. All right, Adam, listen, by the time it's all resolved in the High Court, many businesses will have already gone to the wall. Many farmers will be broke because they can't get workers at the harvest time. It's the harvest time of the year. It's astonishing stuff and a total absence of leadership. Good to talk to you, my friend. We love your insights. You write brilliantly. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thanks very much.
There he is, Adam Creighton.